Good morning, fools. Welcome to the All Jammed Up podcast presented to you by Music Never Stopped. I'm your host, Clint.
I'm your co-host, Chloe, and we're going to Phish.
Well, we're all jammed up and we're ready to blast. It's time for Clint and Chloe's Music Podcast.
That's right, we are.
We got Phish tickets for Deer Creek Saturday, Sunday.
We no longer are going to be the Jam Band podcast that hasn't seen Phish.
We will have some street cred.
And we're going in with an open mind as well.
Yes. Yeah, we're not going to set any expectations. We've got 2 nights to see them.
The good thing is we only know a few songs, so...
Yeah, fingers crossed they play Meat Stick, because that's the only one I know the words to.
And big interview today.
Yeah, super fun one.
Warren Haynes, and then we also have Lara Cwass as well. She's a big Warren Haynes fan, so I thought it kind of worked out perfectly. They were both shorter interviews, so it kind of worked out perfectly to have both of them on the same episode. Great interview with Warren, great interview with Lara as well. And we have a few things to talk about on the back end, but we're going to keep it relatively short just because of the length of having 2 interviews. So here's the interview. We'll do Warren first, and then Lara, and then we'll catch up on some things on the back.
Honey, you're listening to some all jammed up.
We're here today with a very, very special guest, Warren Haynes. How you doing, Warren?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Man, thanks for coming on. This has been awesome. When I first started the podcast last year, I reached out to your guys' management because I know you're a Nashville guy. I live in Nashville here too, so it's an honor to have you on the podcast, man. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, my pleasure, man.
And where are you guys at right now? I know you have Suwannee this weekend, right?
Yeah, we're in Mobile right now on our way to the next show, which is at the Caverns in Pelham, Tennessee.
Okay.
We're driving from Houston, Texas, so we stopped in Mobile to let the driver sleep, and we leave in a few hours to head toward Tennessee.
And the show's tomorrow in Tennessee?
Yeah.
Have you played that venue before?
I have, but not as a solo. Like this tour, tomorrow is my last solo performance, and then I start with the Warren Haynes band, and that goes for a little bit, and then we start with Government Mule.
Okay. What's the solo? Is it just like an acoustic show? Like what?
Yeah, it's some acoustic, some electric, but it's just me by myself.
What's the kind of like contrast between those shows? Like, do you kind of have a little more freedom solo, or is it kind of keeping it? What is that difference like?
Well, freedom in the way that I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
I don't, but a different repertoire to choose from. You know, I do a lot of songs in the solo show that Government Mule doesn't play, or that Warren Haynes band doesn't play. There is some overlap, but it's just me. So it's more of like a singer-songwriter performance. You know, I don't play as much guitar other than like an accompaniment role.
Okay, gotcha. And so I saw this clip on Instagram of you, and it said that you had like 600 songs that you'd written in your life, but only like 250 of them or so had been published. What makes the cut?
Have been recorded. Yeah.
Recorded, okay.
Yeah.
How does a song make the cut? And those songs that haven't been recorded, do you like plan to come back to them, or are they kind of just things that got scrapped?
Some of them I still have intentions of recording. You know, when I did the Ashes and Dust record, there were several songs on that record that I had written a long time ago that I always wanted to record, but it never seemed right for the projects that I was doing. It's kind of like I was waiting for the time to do a record that fit those kind of songs. And that's kind of what Ashes and Dust turned out to be. There are several of those tunes from my past that I would love to record, but they have to find a home, so to speak, you know, and I'm writing new stuff all the time. So sometimes I'll think that I'm going to do one of them or two of them, and then they'll still find their way back to the back burner, you know?
Yeah, it's got to be nice though to have like a not a bare bones copy, but something that you can kind of go back to and refine, and then make it a song, something to work with instead of just starting new every time for a new song.
Yeah, and my approach to songwriting and the directions that I uh, explore as a songwriter, that changes,
Hmm.
year after year too. So like I go back and revisit some of my old stuff, and it's quite different than what I'm writing now. Occasionally there'll be some connection between what I'm writing now and what I was writing then, but I think as with most writers, you see the different progressions that you make and the different directions that you travel, uh, and that's a healthy thing, I think.
Yeah. I want to know about like some of the early days of like before before the Allman Brothers and before all of this happened. Like you grew up here in Asheville, and I live in Asheville, and I can't imagine how different the area is now compared to what it was back then. What was your journey as like an early musician here in Asheville like?
Well, the scene back then wasn't nearly as flourishing as it is now. At that time, there were a lot of great musicians, and there was a cool underground scene, but Asheville wasn't a place that you moved to be part of the scene. It was a place you moved from to find a scene, you
Yeah.
know. And then about, I guess, the last 20 years or so, that's been gradually changing. I meet young musicians all the time now that say they're moving to Asheville or they just moved to Asheville because of how cool the music scene is there. And I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, were you in bands and stuff in Nashville, or at that time you had already like moved to where you were cutting your teeth as a musician?
I was in bands from the beginning. I mean, we started bands when I was 12 years old that just either played uh, in whatever house we were rehearsing in, or if we could play for free somewhere, we would. We played pool parties and stuff like that. When I was 14, I started playing in a club that at that time was called Caesar's Parlor. Started sneaking in there to see Ray Sisk and Malcolm Holcomb and Larry Rhodes and people like that were singer songwriters. And then eventually people started asking me to get up and play, and that was amazing. That I got hooked on that and wanted to do it as much as possible. Yeah, I was in bands in Asheville from that point forward until I joined David Allan Coe's band in 1980,
Mm.
and then in '83 I moved to Nashville. But yeah, it was different back then than it is now. But uh, we had a blast. There
Yeah.
were so many cool musicians, and we all learned how to play together. We all had a lot of the same influences and taught each other, and uh, it was a good place to kind of not only a good place to grow up, but a good place for a musician to kind of learn the ropes too.
Mm.
Even though there wasn't a music business scene, there were a lot of excitable musicians.
Yeah, and I know you kind of took the path of like blues, southern rock. Did you ever, and I know Asheville being deeply rooted in like Appalachian bluegrass, that kind of stuff, did you ever think maybe that was going to be your path when you were younger, or you always more on the electric side of things?
I was always more of an electric guy, so to speak, but I went through a serious singer songwriter phase where I was learning from all these older local singer songwriters, and they were all mentoring me, and I had this deep I developed a deep love for that kind of music and was playing quite a bit of acoustic guitar for several years. Um, but electric was always more my thing. I love bluegrass and Appalachian music, and played it, to the best of my ability. But the cats that can really play it are like far beyond my expertise in that world.
Yeah. How long were you in that David Allan Coe project for?
I joined his band at the end of 1980, and I left his band at the beginning of 1983. Uh, it was a whirlwind, you know. It wasn't something I was prepared for, you know. And, the environment and that scene was a little more than I uh, bargained for, but it was a step up for me from a career standpoint, you know.
Yeah.
And I kept thinking, you know, I don't want to do this anymore. And then something enticing would come along. We did back then we did an album every 6 months.
Hmm.
So going in the studio was always exciting for me. And then at one point, he's like, we're going to do a European tour. I'm like, oh, I've never been to Europe. We went to Europe for 7 weeks. Um, but in the beginning of 83, uh, I believe, if chronologically that's accurate, I had moved to Nashville and was thinking that I would take a stab at doing studio work. I was really young, but starting to learn the ropes there. And eventually, I started getting more and more work and developing some sort of reputation. But I realized that it wasn't what I wanted to do. So
Yeah.
I started gravitating away from that back toward being in bands and stuff like that.
Yeah, and when you left that group and was a few years before or between before you joined the Allman Brothers, kind of walk me through like how that happened. And I imagine like, were you a pretty big fan of the early days Allman Brothers?
I was a huge Allman Brothers fan from the beginning,
Yeah.
from before I ever picked up a guitar. My oldest brother had the first record in 1969, and I was 9 years old. Uh, I hadn't started playing guitar yet, but I had started singing, and I loved Greg's voice. But I also was just moved by the overall picture and the power
Mhm.
and the energy and the uniqueness of it. It's very passionate music, and um, over the next few years, as I was starting to listen to more and more rock music, I decided to pick up guitar, and then that was about the time that Live at Fillmore East came out. I think when Fillmore East came out, I was 11, and my brother had an acoustic guitar, and I played it. And so for my 12th birthday, my dad got me an electric guitar, and that was kind of the beginning.
Okay. And then how did they choose you to join the band? And what was it, like 87 when you joined?
89, I joined the
89.
all. I joined Dickie Betts's band around 86 or 7. They had been broken up for 9 years when I joined the reformed Allman Brothers. I met those guys through David Allan Coe when we were making a record. They came by the recording studio, and so I met Dickie and Greg Allman, and uh, met Guy Clark that night as well. And I was really young, and Dickie was supportive. I think I was 20 at that point, and Dickie was very supportive of me as a guitar player. And we would see each other, you know, every year or so. And then a couple of years later, he asked me to sit in with his band. Uh, and a few years after that, when the Allman Brothers were broken up, and Dickie was touring with BHLT, which was Betts Hall Lavelle Trucks, um, I joined him on stage with that band as well. But then fast forward, his newer band, the bass player Marty Prevette was pushing to get me into band.
Mhm.
And long story short, Dickie had made this record. Uh, he was he was tempting he was tempted to make a country record, but he wanted it to be like an organic country record. If you're familiar with his record Highway Call, it's a beautiful record that has a lot of bluegrass influence, and Vassar Clements is playing on it, and uh, you know, it's a really really cool record. But at that time in Nashville, they were kind of pushing him to make a more modern,
Like honky tonk.
yeah, just like a Nashville produced record, and he didn't like it. But coincidentally, I had been asked to sing background on it, and so when I came into the studio, he didn't know that they had booked me to sing. And when I walked in, he was like, "Hey man, what you doing here?" And I was like, "I got hired to sing on your record." And he was like, "Oh, cool." He said, "You got a guitar?" And I was like, "No." And he was just joking around. He said, "Well, fuck you then." And we started laughing, but I think it planted the seed for him. Oh yeah, Marty's been pushing to get this guy in the band. Maybe I should consider that. I didn't know he was unhappy with the record that he was making,
Mm-hmm.
but he called me 2 or 3 weeks later and said, "Hey man, that record you sang on, I'm scrapping it. I don't like it. What do you think about getting together, writing some songs, and making a rock and roll record?" And I said, "Yeah, I would love to do that." And so that was the beginning for me. And then he brought me in to the Allman Brothers, January of '89.
And the rest was history.
The rest was a big blur. Like stuff was happening all the time. You know, from that moment forward, things just went nuts.
Did you ever feel like a sense of like imposter syndrome, or how did I get here, or like that you weren't good enough? Like, what's going through your mind when you joined that band?
Well, thankfully, I had about 2.5 years of playing with Dickie and his band prior.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like a cool initiation period for me. So I had a lot more idea of what I was getting into, because we were playing big clubs and small theaters with his band, a lot less pressure. Um, but one of the things I learned at that time, well, let's start with the fact that he was playing so loud that I had never played that loud in my life. So if I wanted to be heard on stage, I had to learn to play loud as well. But standing next to someone who had their own voice and every note he played sounded like Dickie Betts, I realized I have to learn how to do that. I have to, if I'm going to find my own voice, so to speak, I can't noodle around and place superfluous stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I have to make every note count,
Intention.
you know. And my sound, I had to upgrade my sound and forge my style based on the fact that I was standing next to this legendary guitar player, and that it just taught me a lot really quick.
Yeah. And then going on a few years, you start Government Mule, and there was who all was in that band, the original band of Government Mule?
The original band was a trio with myself and Alan Woody and Matt Apps. Matt Apps was the drummer in the Dickie Betts band, and that's where he and I met. Alan Woody and I joined the Allman Brothers together in '89. We didn't know each other prior. We had met, and we had even jammed together one time with Artemis Pyle, the drummer from Leonard Skinner. Woody was playing in a band with Artemis, and they were playing at the Exit Inn in Nashville, and they invited me up to play the encore. But it was just like an impromptu blues shuffle or something. We didn't know each other until we both joined the Allman Brothers at the same time, and that's when we became fast friends. So fast forward to '94, we were talking about putting a side project together, because the Allman Brothers at that time were working half the year, and we had the other half to do whatever we wanted to do. And so we talked about doing some project just for the fun of it. And it came about because we were listening to the Hendrix Experience or Cream or something like that, some trio on the bus. And Woody made the comment that, nobody's doing that anymore. There are no improvisational rock trios anymore. And he said, you and I and the right drummer could pull that off. And I thought of Matt Apps, they only knew each other through reputation, but they had never played together before. So the mission became to figure out a way of getting the three of us together to play. And so that happened at a little club in LA a few months later. Matt was playing a gig and Woody and I were there, and we sat in, and the jam turned into this thing beyond any of our expectations. So we thought, yeah, we should do something. But in the beginning, it was just going to be a side project, make one record, do one tour, and then go back to what we were doing. But it kind of caught fire and turned into its own thing and became a real band.
Mm. Did you at the time kind of favor the trio because it gave you like a little more freedom in the jams?
Yeah, I mean, we weren't looking at it like this is what we're going to do forever. We were just looking at it like something fun to do in the moment. But yeah, the trio at that time was very open and free. It gave us a lot of room to jam. And we were trying to bring back something that wasn't currently going on, filling that void, because we loved those trios a lot, and feeling like, oh, well, nobody's doing that. It would be fun just to kind of revisit it and see what happens. But we weren't putting the pressure on ourselves of becoming a real band and making a second record and the fifth record and the 10th record and all that stuff. We were just kind of one step at a time,
Do you think that led to some of the success you guys had? Is like you didn't go into it with this idea of becoming this great band. It was like, let's just go play and see what happens.
Yeah, I do. I feel like a lot of the success that we had was based on every decision we made being what we felt like was the most fun at that time. We weren't thinking like, what should we do from a music industry standpoint? We weren't looking to make like commercially accessible music. We were just looking to make a statement, and on a smaller level than we imagined it could be. Because I think the first record, before we made it, we were just looking for a really small budget and thinking it'll be very improvisational, not a lot of songs, and by the time we got a record deal and a budget and a producer and all that stuff, I had started writing more and more songs and thought, well, maybe there needs to be a balance of songwriting and improvisation. Making a straight up improv record is a little lofty in the first place. So it was an interesting experience.
Yeah, I think that's good advice, is, doing things for what's the most fun. Everything else will come.
Yeah, we had no expectations because we were full-time members of the Allman Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were just utilizing the time off to do other things. And then eventually it became so, I guess, challenging to juggle all the time. And we had to make a decision. Do we want to do this full time? Because we were getting a lot of pressure at that point to be a real band. And so, that's just kind of a natural progression, I guess.
Yeah, and in your career, Allman Bros, Government Mule, you played with Phil Lesh and Friends, all these great musicians that you've played with throughout your career. A thing that strikes me is, playing so much with Phil Lesh and then playing with someone like Les Claypool, that are two great bass players, but so much different too. How do you approach playing with like a Phil compared to Les and vice versa? Like when you get on stage with those guys, like what's kind of the idea you have when you get in there?
Well, I think you just kind of automatically adapt to the situation. Improv is all about responding to what's going on around you. So if you're forcing your own thoughts on the music without being influenced by what you're hearing, you're kind of putting a square peg in a round hole, and I grew up playing so many different types of music and loving so many different types of music that for me, it was just a wonderful challenge to be able to do all these different things and respond. Uh, Sometimes it would mean, different guitars, different amps, different sonic approaches, but sometimes just bouncing off the ideas you're hearing. And I am really fortunate that I've been able to play with a lot of wonderful musicians and a lot of different genres of music, um, and it's a fun experience, but it's also a good learning experience.
Yeah. As far as some of the newer musicians on the scene, like I've seen you play with Daniel Donato. My very first interview on this podcast was with Jimmy Law from Dogs in a Pile, and when I asked him like who he kind of looked up to or modeled his guitar playing when he was younger, he said you. So like some of these younger musicians on the scene now, like who's really catching your eye, and like somebody that you think is really going to do a great job, or someone you want to play with?
Well, Daniel is fantastic. We played together a few times, but
I saw you guys at Dark Star Jubilee last year. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, he's great, and he came to this past Christmas jam, which was great. I love the adventure that they apply to the music. He's not scared to go out on a limb, and I love that. I think that's a lot of what not necessarily is missing, but needs to be a part of today's music is the fearlessness that a lot of our heroes had, to just see where the music takes them. And if you have an audience that encourages that, then you're lucky, and it's a wonderful combination, because making improvisational music is much harder in an empty room than it is in front of an exuberant crowd.
Yeah. I know we're coming up on our time here. I don't want to keep it too long. And just one question to kind of wrap it up is, you could stop playing now and just go down as one of the greatest to ever do it. All these projects that you've been in, everything that you've done for music. What drives you today to still, be releasing new albums, booking all these shows? Like, what keeps you going? What keeps you wanting to keep playing music, giving people more music?
Well, I'm still enjoying playing music now as much as I ever have. It's exciting. The opportunities that I have to express myself in so many different ways and be on stage and in the studio with all these amazing musicians. From a songwriting standpoint, I've written more in the last few years than I've written in a really long time. I think I'm just kind of enjoying a growth spurt. I'm really having a great time, but I don't really see myself stopping until I need to. And I'm very fortunate
for all of us.
I'm very fortunate that I have an audience that encourages me to do all these different things, and so as long as it's inspiring, I want to keep doing all I can, because what an opportunity. We musicians get to do what we love for a living, and so it's work, but it's great work, I love my job.
Yeah. Before we send you off, can you give us one, like I've kind of alluded to a few times now in this interview, you've shared the stage with so many people. When you think back on like your career, is there one time on stage that you were just like, the magic was there more than it's ever been? Like maybe just one night with one group of people?
Well, there's a lot. Even the two brothers shows that we did at Madison Square Garden a few months back were magical. Playing with myself and Derek Trucks and Oteil and Mark Quinones and Chuck LaBelle and Reese Winans and J-Mo, and Isaac Eady and Joe Russo. It's just those shows were fantastic, But there's so many Allman Brothers shows. I was there for 25 years. I can't even begin to isolate the ones that were magical, because that band was a magical band.
Mm-hmm.
When I toured with the Dead, it was a similar but different experience. The Phil Lesh Quintet with myself and Jimmy Herring and John Molo and Rob Baracco and Phil is one of the best bands I've ever been in. And so all those shows were fantastic, I do remember one specific, since you asked about a specific moment, because there were a lot of great moments touring with the Dead, but there was this one at Rothbury on the 4th of July when we were playing Viola Lee Blues, and something happened and the music just elevated, and for about 6 or 7 minutes it sounded like we were morphing into the Miles Davis Quintet or something. And it was just this undefinable music happening, and I look around and Phil's smiling and Bill Kreutzmann is smiling and Bobby's smiling, and we were all feeling it, but we were riding that wave. And I said something to Phil about it later on. He's like, yeah, I know the exact moment you were talking about.
Awesome.
We all just felt like, wow, something happened, and, you can be on the verge of that hundreds of times or thousands of times, but sometimes when it happens beyond that, it's something that only happens a handful of times.
Awesome. Well, Warren, again, thanks so much for coming on. I don't want to keep you. I could ask questions all day, but before we let you go, is there anything that you want to plug? I know you got dates coming up, album coming out, album just came out. Anything that you'd want to plug?
Well, there's a lot. I released my record, Million Voices Whisper, and then I released a companion piece to that called The Whisper Sessions. And we just re-released my first solo record, Tales of Ordinary Madness, from 1993. It's remixed and remastered, and I encourage people to check that out. It kind of sounds like I always wanted it to sound. It's going to be a busy year, a lot of touring going on. So if I'm somewhere close by, come check it out.
Awesome. Well, Warren, again, thanks so much for coming on, man.
My pleasure, man. Good to see you.
Another one.
Alrighty, guys. We are here today with, excuse me if I mess this up again, Lara, right?
Lara
Lara. And how do you say your last name?
Cwass.
Cwass. That's a cool name. Where's your family from?
Thank you. From Poland.
Okay. Gotcha. Nice.
But Lara comes from Larry, my grandpa.
Oh, nice. That's pretty cool. That's an interesting way to mix that up there. So where are you based out of?
Originally from Queens, New York, but I went to UVM in Burlington, Vermont. So I've been hanging there since college.
In the Vermont area?
Yeah.
Yeah. How I always hear good things about that scene. How is that up there?
It's great. It's mostly jam based, and there's a good little jazz scene. Unfortunately, Nectar's closed at the end of the summer, so we miss Nectar's very much, but we still have a good scene going. We're hanging in there.
That was like kind of the premier venue, like the Phish venue from back in the day, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nectar's has been around, I think, for over 40 years, so it's very sad that it closed.
What happened? Just couldn't afford it anymore?
There's been a lot of construction downtown, and I think post-COVID, the scene has been dwindling a bit. I think just not enough people go out to see live music. So sadly,
Is that just a Vermont thing, you think, or post-COVID, there's just less shows or less people going out in general, or just in Vermont?
I feel like after COVID, the music scene has struggled everywhere. That's my perception. But being there since 2016 to now, I definitely notice a difference after COVID.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing because I felt like I wasn't going to like a whole bunch of shows pre-COVID. I was just getting out of college. And then like during COVID is kind of where I dove in and like really I just listened to a lot of Grateful Dead before COVID. And then like during COVID kind of branched out and listened to a lot more bands and then found myself going to shows. So that experience is kind of interesting saying that it just seems like it's kind of died off a little bit since COVID.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people have gotten used to staying home.
It is nice to stay home though.
Yeah, and I think it's good that people tend to drink less now socially,
Hmm.
but I think alcohol sort of fuels the music scene.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a contributing factor. That's
Yeah,
my
that's
guess.
I like that theory. I like that theory because it probably holds some weight. And you're right. It seems like the newer gen. How old are you?
27.
Okay, so I'm 29, so we're like kind of in the same ballpark. But it does seem like the younger generation coming up is like not drinking as much.
Yeah, which is good. It's good to be
Yeah.
healthy.
Yeah, definitely. So how long have you been playing music for?
Um, I think I picked up a guitar when I was 14, but probably didn't actually start playing till maybe 15.
Okay. And what
Um,
inspired you to want to pick up guitar?
I remember getting really into Pink Floyd. I think I was 12, and became absolutely obsessed with The Wall. I saw them in 2011.
Okay.
And then after Floyd, I got really into Government Mule, became obsessed with Warren and the Brothers, and then after that, The Dead.
Hmm.
And then after all of the jam stuff, I kind of branched out and got into fusion and world music. I've loved Indian classical for quite a few years now. And
Indian
a lot of music
classical.
from,
Can you kind of explain that to me? Like what exactly that is?
yeah, like music with sitar or sarod.
Okay.
Ali Akbar Khan is one of my favorite musicians ever. He's a sarod player.
What is a sarod? I've seen this. What's the first one you said? Sitar?
Sitar,
Sitar.
yeah.
I've seen that one, but what's the other one?
Sarod. Sitar is a more commonly known Indian instrument. I don't know if it's a South Indian or North Indian instrument. But sarod is fretless and it has a metal neck and you use your nails to fret. It's a very challenging instrument to play. I got one, I think 6 months ago. I don't really play it, but hopefully someday.
Who put you on to that music? Like, how'd you find that?
Um, there's definitely a lot of Indian influence in the Beatles through George Harrison.
Mm.
So that was probably my first exposure to Indian music. But I'm a big Derek Trucks girl,
Okay.
and he's definitely been very heavily influenced by Indian music. I know that he loves Ali Akbar Khan. He actually went to Ali Akbar Khan's school in California and took some courses there. But Derek Trucks band has a lot of world music influence. That was probably one of my biggest exposures to that initially, and then I just dove headfirst. Indian music is probably my favorite music ever.
Yeah, I don't know how much of the podcast you've ever listened to or anything, but my girlfriend and I do it, and like I have a lot of these conversations with like people in the jam band world, and sometimes you get conversations like this where like their influences are Indian music. So we started doing like picking like a niche music that's like a stem of jam band, and like last month we did Cajun and Zydeco. So I think with all the influences from other people in Indian music, that might be a perfect one for us to do next.
Yeah, that
For
sounds sweet.
for someone trying to get into that, where would you say to start?
Um, Probably Ravi Shankar.
Okay. I think I've heard that name before. But it seems like you're kind of, doing a lot of stuff in like the Grateful Dead universe. I saw you play with Oteil and friends, and then you have the show at the Ecology Center coming up with Music Never Stopped. So what kind of got you into the direction of the Dead?
I think the Dead have felt parallel to the Allman Brothers for me.
Hmm.
They've been kind of sibling bands in my life. Oteil definitely bridged that gap in many ways. He was in the Allman Brothers for I think over 20 years, and obviously has been in Dead and Co. as well. Oteil's a very important force in my life and many of my beloved friends' lives. I think I started seeing Phil Lesh when I was 12. I used to go to the Capitol Theater since I'm from Queens, and those were my earliest exposures to what felt like the Dead.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, I think I really fell in love with Jerry summer of 2019. I think everything just really clicked. And I started to feel what sweetness in music was. Jerry is just the epitome of sweetness to me.
What does that mean to you, like sweetness in music?
His soul is just so sweet. His guitar playing is sweet sounding. His voice is sweet. I just feel this surge of warmth when I hear Jerry.
Yeah. I want to go back to Oteil too, because you made kind of an emphasis that he's like a very important person to you. How'd you meet him, and like how has that relationship kind of helped you as a person and as a musician?
It's hard to put into words what Oteil means to us. He really is everything. He's our hero, our friend. He's one of the wisest people I've ever had the pleasure of speaking with. But I started seeing him with the Allman Brothers at the Beacon when I was pretty young. I only had a few years with them because they finished playing in 2014. But I saw them for the first time, I think 2012, so 12, 13, 14. And then they did their usual run of shows every March at the Beacon. And then they had one additional run in October. And my final two shows were October 24th and 25th of 2014.
Okay.
But I used to see the brothers as a little kid, and I would sneak up to the rail if I didn't get in trouble. And the Allman Brothers were my whole life. I would be up front sobbing, and I think that caught the attention of the band. There's just a little girl crying up front, and they definitely knew of me because I had been to so many shows. And then I started going to Butch and Oteil's camp called Roots Rock Revival, which is a music camp in Big Indian, New York. And I think this year will be maybe my 13th year. Taz brought me as a little kid because we actually met at the Beacon Theater at an Allman Brothers show, and we became good friends. So I got to know Oteil very well through camp, and also Butch. God bless him. We miss him. And eventually started to play with Oteil a little more as I got older. Played with him at camp, but more recently there have been a few sit-ins, and we did a gig recently out in Florida, and some more coming up.
Yeah, walk us through like just kind of that whole situation. Like you get a call from Oteil, and then it's like, hey, do you want to play with me? Like what's kind of going through your mind when you get an opportunity like that?
He had so kindly been encouraging me to sit in for a while, and I mentioned that I was gonna be at the Cap. So he was like, bring your guitar, you have no choice.
And were you nervous about it, or were you excited? Like what's kind of just going through you when that opportunity presents itself?
Definitely very honored and excited. The Cap is such a special venue.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the most special venue to myself and my family. Also a little nervous for sure. I think we all get nervous before shows. But I was definitely a little more nervous for the sit-in, just because the significance of everybody on stage, and also the venue and the history of the venue. I just have so much respect for everybody who was playing that night, and Oteil, that I wanted to make sure to perform as well as I could.
And how'd that go? How'd that night go?
Overall, I think it went well. I mean, all musicians are critical of
Yeah.
themselves, so I always have some things to say after I play.
How does how do you like deal with that like day to day, show to show, like, you know, be trying not to be critical of yourself, but trying to enjoy the moment too? Like it's got to be like kind of a battle of like, of course you always want to get better, but at the same time, it's like, when is it going to be enough, good enough for myself too?
That's a lifelong question. Um, there's definitely a learning curve to playing live music. There are so many unpredictable variables. I mean, as a guitar player, you're chasing tone. There's the sound on stage. There's the differences in the sound in every venue. Um, we're also human beings that feel different day to day, both spiritually and physically. So that's variable. You could have days where you're really tired and you're kind of fighting your body, and that can affect how you play. Um, so there's just always a lot to think about. But as I've gotten older, I've been learning to lean into the freedom and let go of fear within live music. I feel that really deeply as a listener. I feel the most free watching live music, to the point of really passionate tears and the greatest joys of my life. And I've been trying to figure out how to transcend that into playing live music. But it's challenging because there's a lot of pressure that we put on ourselves. And as a listener, there really isn't any pressure. You're just there to be and feel. So it's definitely a craft to define, to learn to tap into love and freedom, and really true raw expression when you're playing live music, on top of memorizing parts and just trying to perform well.
Yeah, I think for anyone that's like seen a video of you playing guitar, you mentioned like the raw emotion, the expression of that. You carry that like on your face, like very clearly, like, was that something you were ever like kind of self-conscious of or self-aware, or were you just always kind of like, this is who I am and what I'm doing when I play this music, and just embraced it?
Are you referring to like guitar faces?
Yeah.
I've never really cared about making faces on stage. I don't ever notice it when I'm doing it. I think playing music is supposed to be ugly.
Yeah, I'm not saying it in any way by a negative thing. I think it's a really nice thing to watch you being so into it. But I guess like I could see also in another vein of someone being like, I don't want to make those faces. Like, I don't want to look like that up there. So I was just wondering if that was like something you ever battled with internally.
No, I mean, I think we all think about how we look on stage because people are watching us, but that's one thing that I'm never like, I'm going to control this.
Yeah.
I'd rather really lean in and play assertively and look ugly. Like, I don't want to look like a Barbie up there.
Good for you, yeah. I want to go back to the Ecology Center show, though. That's going to be your first time going out west?
Playing out west
Playing
for
out
sure,
west.
yeah.
Yeah.
I've been to California a handful of times, but I'm really excited to play out there.
Yeah, who's all on that lineup?
That's still being sorted out.
Okay.
But right now, well, not everybody has been announced. But Reed Mathis and Zach Nugent have been announced so far, and myself as well.
I didn't realize now that we're talking about this. This is what we talked about before we started recording. That's what hasn't been announced yet. So sorry for putting on you on the spot there.
The show's been announced, but the lineup has slowly been in the process of being announced.
Okay, nice. I was looking at your Instagram to prepare for this, and one of the videos, I just happened to push a comment, and there was a comment about you learning to play guitar left-handed instead of right. Like you had known right-handed and you learned left-handed.
Oh,
was I overreading
been
into that, or?
I think that was one of my friends making a joke because I think
okay.
the video was flipped on my phone, so it looked like
Okay.
I was playing left-handed.
That makes
I think I
more
know what you're
sense than-
talking about.
Okay, gotcha. And then I also saw a video of you playing with some of my Asheville friends, New Dawn Starkestra.
Oh,
Yeah. Where was that venue when you got to play with those guys?
they are the best. I went to Christmas Jam for the first time.
Okay.
When was it? In December? Yeah,
Mhm.
I assume that's when Christmas Jam is. Um, and Jeff Sipe is a beloved friend and hero of ours. He's been in Aquarium Rescue Unit and has played with many projects we love dearly. And I've been talking to him over the last couple years, mostly through social media. And he invited me to sit in, so that was a blast.
Yeah, that's awesome. Those guys rule. We mentioned too Christmas Jam, Warren Haynes a little bit. I just had the opportunity to interview Warren Haynes the other day, and I just wanted to know, like, of all these great musicians, and it seems like you're a real, like, student of music. You know, like not learning till you were 14 or 15, but even before that, it sounded like you had so much knowledge of music and just understanding music. What about it with Warren Haynes just makes you so attracted to his style of play?
Um, Warren is just a master of everything, seemingly. He has a beautiful voice. He's a stunning writer. He's one of the most soulful musicians out there. He's so wise and articulate. He's so versatile and professional. I mean, the way that he played with Phil is a great example. He carried that band in many ways. The Q is probably my favorite Phil and Friends lineup. Warren's role in the Brothers, the most recent iteration of the Allman Brothers, is, I mean, he's Warren. He's half of the Warren Derek guitarmony relationship. Yeah, Warren just feels like home. I grew up loving Warren. I'd been going to Mountain Jam since I was a little kid. I went from 2009 to 2019, so 10 years in a row of seeing Warren, and that basically was Warren's festival back in the day. And he was a major reason why I fell in love with music.
Mm-hmm. What were your parents like huge into music?
My dad and uncle definitely love music. They love
Okay.
jam music, and they encouraged me to fall in love with the Dead and the Brothers. So it's definitely in the family.
Yeah, okay. And that jazz, you know, you mentioned in the beginning, that Vermont has like a big jam scene and some of the jazz scene. Is the jazz scene anything that you're involved in?
I try to be.
Yeah.
Jazz has never been my primary thing. I went to school for jazz studies, for jazz guitar, but I wouldn't call myself a jazz player.
Okay. What qualifies someone as a jazz player then? Because me, I'm not a guitar player. I watch the videos I've never seen you in person, but I watch the videos of you playing, and to me, I'm just immediately like, she's got to be able to do anything with a guitar. So why can't she do jazz? So what qualifies a jazz player?
That's very kind of you. I'm glad I create that illusion.
Like I said, I'm just the guy with the podcast microphone. I don't know how to play any instrument, so it's all impressive to me.
I think to be a jazz player, you kind of just have to have that jazz bug and be absolutely obsessed with it. And it's a very advanced, dense, beautiful language that I haven't acquired yet. I hope to. But being fluent in jazz is very difficult. You have to basically devote everything to jazz and just make that your thing, in my opinion.
Yeah. And you're in your own band as well, right?
Yeah, I have a band where we mostly play my originals, just Lara Cwass band.
Okay, gotcha. And what goes into like the songwriting process for you?
I have a weird way of writing. I kind of just chunk pieces together. Ideally, the things that I listen to would come out in my originals. I love Zappa and Radiohead and fusion and Indian music and some African music, and it all kind of meshes together. But Zappa's definitely a big influence.
Yeah, I can't get my girlfriend to really listen to Frank Zappa. She's not into it. She struggles with it.
I can definitely send some of my favorites. I think starting with live Zappa
Okay.
helps get listeners integrated into what he was.
Yeah. We've been talking about a lot of these, Zappa, Warren Haynes, The Dead. Who are you listening to like today, like more modern musicians that are really catching your ears? Maybe somebody that you'd really want to play with.
Um, that's a tough question. I listen to so much every day, and it's changing week to week. Um, like this past week, I've listened to a ton of Donny Hathaway and Soul Live,
Hmm.
and Ahmad Jamal. But it really depends on the week.
Yeah.
I listen to a lot of old stuff.
Okay. So, have you ever played? I think of like when you say Vermont, I think of Cotter from Goose. I interviewed him one time, and he kind of talked about the Vermont music scene. Is that someone that you play with at all up there?
Cotter's a good friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. We played together recently at Brooklyn Bowl. He had a Cotter and Friends show.
Hmm.
But he used to play in Lara Cwass band.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
When was that?
That was 2019 through COVID. I think a little
Okay.
after maybe to until 2021 or 22.
Gotcha. Nice. And then he did, what was it? The Swimmers? What was the other band that he was in?
Swimmer, yeah.
Swimmer. Okay, yeah.
We love Swimmer dearly. I had a lot of fun seeing Swimmer when I was younger in Burlington.
Okay. So are you into like being up in the Northeast? Are you into Phish? Like, is that your jam at all?
Totally. I love
Yeah.
Fish.
Okay. Yeah, that's the one. I haven't seen them live yet. Listen to some of their stuff, like some of their stuff, but it's kind of the knock as being the jam band podcast guys. We haven't seen Phish yet, so we're hoping this summer we can do that.
Yeah, I got into them when I was a freshman at UVM. I
Mhm.
started going to MSG for New Year's and have been probably every year since. And seeing them at Spec in the summer is always a blast. Um, but I feel like they've taught me to listen in a very specific way. It's I treat it sort of as ear training when I go to see them, um, because they're definitely a true jam band. There's a
Yeah.
lot to pick up in a Fish show. I love as a listener, being very intentional and kind of checking myself and thinking, oh, like Mike just did that, and this is where the jam went, and just following how they communicate because it helps me articulate my improvisation skills like as a player by really tuning into what they do.
Yeah, so what's like going playing with all these different people? Like you have your own band, and like say you're with Cotter and friends, or you're with Oteil and friends. Like what's kind of going through your mind, like during an improv? Like like yeah, we have this chorus, and we're gonna go into an improv. Like what's kind of your mindset approaching that improv session?
Um, Before it depends on what state I'm in. Um, Sometimes I'll very actively try to tap into feeling love before playing
Hmm.
music. Um, I very often think about literally hugging Oteil, because he's one of the most loving beings I could ever imagine. Um, and thinking about giving him a hug opens up my soul, and I'm able to tap into more than I would otherwise. Or just being with people I love, but it's a pretty conscious thought before I play. Sometimes I'll just imagine a hug. Um, Sometimes if I feel like I'm open enough spiritually, I don't really have to think about these
Hmm.
things consciously. Um, when you are playing, the goal is to not think about anything really. Once you remember that you're actually playing music, you kind of check out, and you lose the flow state. I think if I don't register that I'm playing a show, the entire show, it's a success.
And like you said, there's so many like variables that can get you there, like get you outside of I can't think of how you just said it, but like can get you kind of removed from being in the situation. How rare is it that like you find yourself going through a whole show, and then ending and being like, "Oh, we're already done," or like I wasn't even like here, you know?
Pretty often. When musicians are really tapped in, time doesn't exist. So I'm always pleased if I look at the clock. I'm like, oh, great, we're done. I didn't even realize we were playing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, see, like I said, I have all these conversations with people, and it's like, as a non-musician, it's like, how do you even get there?
It kind of just happens. It's not consistent. There are some shows where you feel like you're sort of fighting yourself, which is natural because we're human beings. And then there are other shows where you're really in tune with what you need to be. You feel like you're just able to express and emote freely.
Yeah. Yeah. Alrighty. Well, I think that pretty much covers most of the questions that I had for you. Is there anything that you want to plug between like maybe your upcoming shows or your own band, anything like that?
There's definitely some cool stuff coming up. I'll be announcing it on my Instagram and Facebook as well. But for now, I probably should stay hush hush.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and hopefully you come down here to Asheville or something soon. Maybe we can get you to sit in with Isaac Haddon again.
Oh, totally. That would be a blast. That's the plan, hopefully sooner than later. It was so nice to meet you.
You just got jammed.
And welcome back, everybody.
Welcome back from the interviews.
I've kind of had like FOMO this weekend, watching all the Winter Wondergrass videos.
I agree entirely. I saw fucking Andy Frasco singing with Leftover Salmon. I saw a picture of Billy Failing, Daniel Donato, and Andy Frasco. Andy is he's just in there all the
He's
time.
everywhere.
He's such
He's
a
everywhere.
constant.
I saw
can agree
Cody
with that.
Nottingham singing with Mountain Grass Unit.
Yeah, the boys are having fun. We definitely need to get out there because that just always seems like such a good time.
It's just like, I think Top House was there too.
Mm-hmm.
Just everybody was out there. It was a
Come
good lineup. Hopefully the weather was warm for them, because I know that can be
Where's it at?
Calabrada.
Oh, Chili Willy for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely love to get out to that one. I agree with the FOMO. I'm not usually one that gets FOMO too often.
We also had the announcement of a new album from one of the guys from King Giz, and had a very
what's his name?
interesting
Like Crass?
Cavs maybe Cavs.
Something in there, but
He's
yeah.
fucking a tree.
I mean,
I don't know what else you would
nature is
call
a
it.
woman, right?
Depend.
I don't really know, dude.
Mother Nature.
When is there like a plant form of bestiality? Like, is it rude?
Is it rude to fuck a tree? It's inappropriate, that's for sure.
Especially to record it and put it in your music video.
I might take that video and I'm gonna put it right here, so you guys can see what we're talking about on the video.
Nice.
Hopefully I remember that.
Hopefully we know how to do that.
I know how to do it,
Cool.
but I don't know if I'll remember to do it by the time I put it all together. So you gotta
So
remind
if
me.
we didn't, just go find it. It's probably on Reddit somewhere.
It's on Face Melt, the Instagram page. Just a unique promo video, but also a bunch of 3 new albums came out on
3
Friday.
new albums.
Magoo, Oregon Fairchild, and there was like a remix to one of Goose's albums, Everything Must Go. Is it like EDM-y? I didn't listen to it at all. I just saw that one clip.
Oh, you told me that it was a Goosey DM album.
Oh, did I?
This morning. I'd never heard of it. You showed me that little snippet and you were like, yeah, they put out a whole EDM version of
Well,
their
it said,
album.
I think is how it went down. It said Everything Must Go remix, and then I just saw that one, and I kind of ran with the idea that it was maybe just the EDM, but yeah, I don't know. I haven't listened to any of it, so
Yeah, so it might not be, but we'll look into it. We're gonna do a listen through separately of all 3 of these albums, and we will discuss them on Thursday's episode.
on a little Chloe's Corner, because Thursday we have the conclusion of the Cajun Zydeco.
Yeah.
We have Chubby Carrier who's son of Roy Carrier, who I believe we put on the playlist a couple weeks ago.
We did, yeah.
And he kind of tells us, kind of confirms a lot of what we thought about the differences between Cajun and Zydeco and all that. He gives us a little more deeper of the history into it. But that was a great interview. And then, so we'll have that on Thursday, and then an extra long Chloe's Corner. We'll review some of those albums. We will preview what the next genre is going to be.
Yeah, we put a poll up, so if it's still present, go find it, go put your votes in. We have a couple options that were sent over to us, or if you send in something new and that really strikes us.
Yeah, we got some good ones right now, though. And just putting those 4 up and seeing the people vote on the poll kind of got me fired up to keep doing that. I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, Jason had some nice input on it as well. Yeah, I think it's fun. I think, when you stop trying to learn, you
get complacent.
Yeah, there's no reason to get complacent in something that you love.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for it. Clint is going to be gone all next week. I'm going to be queen of the household all by myself. He'll be in Boston for work. So
our
Thursday will be like a weird virtual thing between the two of us.
Should we talk about Jim Carrey?
I have so much to say about Jim Carrey. And I have so much to say about a lot of it. That Jim Carrey is not real. That is not Jim Carrey.
You're like the girl in the airplane.
I am. That man is not real. That is how I feel. There is no way they can make me believe that soft, round-faced man is Jim Carrey. And then there was also a thing. I've gone down a rabbit hole.
I can tell.
There's also a thing where in the Truman Show, they quoted as the ending scene, the good afternoon, good evening, and good night. In the Truman Show, he says, and if I don't see you. At the awards ceremony, he fucking did that thing, and he said, if he doesn't see you.
What? Hold on. You got to redo that
Okay.
thought. You just said the Truman Show, good morning, good afternoon. At the show, he said, if you don't see me.
Let me get there.
Let's try that again.
So in the Truman Show, the last scene of the Truman Show, he, realizes that everything is a movie. And in the camera,
It's a show. It's called
whatever.
Truman.
And into the camera, he says, and if I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. If I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. At that award show the other day, he tried to replicate that quote, but he said, and if he doesn't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. That's what he said.
So your theory is that...
Dude, I'm 100% in on they cloned him.
They cloned him?
They're cloning people.
But if they cloned him,
they're replacing.
Yeah, okay. I was gonna say if they cloned him, it would just look like him, but it doesn't really look like him.
Okay, so not the cloning. I'm in on the replacement.
But what would be the benefit of taking out Jim Carrey?
Because he went on a big rant exposing the Illuminati on Jimmy Kimmel. He said that they're all part of it. He was exposing everything.
Is the Illuminati separate from the Epstein stuff?
No, it's all
okay. So this
joined.
is all one big thing.
You know how Alex Jones lost his mind a couple years ago?
Well, he was right, but
exactly. That's what
Jim
Carrey was saying
gay.
as well. So I'm all in. We'll do another deep dive and all, but fucking they got Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey also said that if he ever comes out of retirement, it's not him. He said that.
But he didn't come out of retirement for that. It was just he was accepting an award, right?
He hasn't been to award shows in years. He doesn't go to award shows because he doesn't believe in the Hollywood elite.
But he wasn't in Hollywood. He was in Paris. Maybe he believes in the Paris elite.
So you're clearly not up to date.
I'm not up to date.
If you were up to date, you would agree with me.
I saw the picture and I don't think it looks like Jim Carrey really. But what is stopping him from just getting a little Botox?
Oh man, you're so far behind. I should have gotten you read up on this before I even put it on my fucking notes pad. He has been trying to expose things for years, and then he decided he didn't want anything to do with it. And then they killed his girlfriend. They drove his girlfriend.
Who's they?
The people.
The people. You gotta be more.
I don't know who the person is, but they drove his girlfriend off a cliff, and that's when he went off out of Hollywood's eye.
Big
he was
Uber?
like, you know
Big
what?
Uber
He
killed
was
her?
like, leave me alone. You've clearly done enough. He fell off the earth, basically. And then he comes back to this soft, round-faced, soft-spoken. The man was holding signs like this.
But if okay,
He
so
was on Jimmy Kimmel, sticking his tongue through a triangle, saying the Illuminati is coming to get all of us, and all of us are complacent.
I'm not
Him speaking to Hollywood.
I'm not totally disagreeing with you because I agree the picture does look crazy. But if this big opposition killed him, why would they then bring him back and give him an award? Like, just don't give him the award so he's not out of the public eye. They're really dancing on ice with that.
They're in charge of who gives the awards. I think he was nominated for an award, won it, and they had to bring him back. He doesn't.
That's what
why.
she's saying. That's what she's saying.
Because it wasn't Jim Carrey.
Why would you bring him back to an award show if he doesn't go to award shows?
Because they're dumb. You think that they... Hold on, Sam.
They can
I
do
gotta
all
show
these
you.
other things, though.
Hold on, Sam. Don't leave.
We're locked into Jim Carrey right now.
Yeah, I think he's a stupid person. And he probably did some dumb shit.
Yeah, he
Sam
probably got
doesn't like Jim
Botox.
Carrey. I forgot about that. Look.
I feel the same way about Jim Carrey that Shia LaBeouf feels about Mike Piazza.
Fuck Mike
Mike
Piazza.
Piazza, fuck Jim Carrey.
My whole life, every day, bro.
No, he's not.
Anyway, clearly this house is not read up,
I'm
so
not.
I will.
I'm not.
I will
saying,
get to the instructional part of this debrief.
I mean,
If you don't,
can't we just call Jim Carrey and be like, "Hey, man, what's up?"
maybe. I mean,
It doesn't look like him. Like that doesn't look like the same person.
no. I know what a facelift looks like. That's a lot more than a. That's not a facelift.
But that kind of looks like him. But then that doesn't look
Won't
like
let
him.
You open that one. Ooh. Anyway, I've gone down the rabbit hole. Selena Gomez is also involved. She's dead apparently too. So
We might have to have Chloe come prepared and really teach us something here soon.
no, I'm scared to dip my toes into the Illuminati, man. I am gonna say that man is not Jim Carrey.
That motherfucker is not real.
I feel that way. Yeah, I'll get you read up. Don't worry, you'll be
All
in
right.
on it.
Well, guys, great episode today. Legend Warren Haynes, up and coming legend Lara, and I'm excited for Thursday's episode. You guys are gonna enjoy it. Chubby was the man. That was a great interview, and then we'll announce our new genre.
Woohoo! Can't wait.
So have a great week, guys. We'll see you again on Thursday, and remember, wherever you are right now is exactly where you're supposed to be.
Well, all jammed up, hey, that's where it's going down. Best damn pot in this old Asheville town. More than enough old stories to go around. And I'm all jammed up right now. Yes, I'm all jammed up right now.